Hello dear students, welcome to our biology program. Today we are going to complete the story of reproduction in flowering plants by studying fertilization and pollination. What is alternation of generation? Yes, it is a way of reproduction in which some species of plants and animals can breed both asexually and sexually during their life cycle. Yes, it is a way of reproduction in which some species of plants and animals can breed both asexually and sexually during their life cycle. Then why they reproduce by this way? So there is some advantages. Look at these advantages. Rapid reproduction, a very rapid one. A numerous offspring, very wide number of individuals. Genetic diversity. Then these advantages enable the living organism to diverse widely and to be adapted with the environmental fluctuations. And these environmental conditions make them live in this environment very well. In these types of reproduction, there is so many examples, but we are going to concern about 3 of them. The life cycle of Plasmodium malaria, and this is a wide type of disease which is widely spread in Africa. Also, the life cycle of fern and the life cycle of Bilharzia. And all of us, we knew that most of the farmers know what is meant by Bilharzia. So the life cycle of Plasmodium malaria. This is a disease is caused by a certain type of protozoan parasite from a protozoa called Plasmodium malaria, which infects both men and the female Anopheles mosquito. Let us look to the life cycle of this parasite. Yes, it starts when an infected female Anopheles mosquito penetrates human skin to get a blood meal. So, a minute spindle-shaped sporozoite, a very, very small spindle-shaped bodies are called sporozoites. This will enter with the injected blood with the mosquito saliva. This will be injected with the mosquito saliva. Then the sporozoite will travel to the liver where they spent an incubation period, during which they make 2 cycles of asexual reproduction, where the nuclei divide by schizogony, giving several merozoites. The released merozoites invade other liver cells. Some of them, they invade the liver cell and enter the bloodstream, infecting the red blood cells, where they pass several cycles, producing a wide number of merozoites, which are released every 2 days, causing the symptoms of malaria fever, which are heat, chill, and sweating. Every 2 days, these symptoms takes place because of the infection produced by the merozoites. Some of the merozoites invade the red blood cells another time and form the gametocyte. When the mosquito penetrates an infected human skin to get a blood meal, it takes the infected blood cells with it, which are the red blood cells containing the gametocyte. Where the gametocyte arise, into male and female gametes. In the mosquito stomach, what will happen? The gamete fuse with each other and forms the zygote with diploid cells, which transform to ookinete that penetrate the wall of mosquito stomach and grow into oocytes. Within the oocyte, repeated mitotic division takes place. This process is known as sporogony, which in turn produces a numerous sporozoite that liberate and move toward the mosquito's salivary glands, and from there they inject into the bloodstream of a human another time. Why they inject them? Because the mosquito here needs to eat the blood. So sporozoites enter another time into the bloodstream of the human, repeating the life cycle again. So is alternation of generation is fulfilled in this life cycle or not? It is fulfilled. How? If we look to the life cycle, you will see that there is a sexual generation produced by the gamete in mosquito, and another one, a sexual generation, is produced another time by the sporogony in mosquito and by schizogony in man. So alternation of generation, it is fulfilled in this life cycle. Then another type of life cycle, but it is in plant, the life cycle of fern plant. If we look to the fern, we will find that there is a very, very wide number and types of fern. Some of them are very, very long and very wide in size, and some of them are very minute that doesn't exceed your nail finger. The polypodium, it is one of these fern we are going to study it. The polypodium, which is known as an ornamental plant. Another type of fern, which is the adiantum, which grows on wheel edges and shaded streams. Then we are going to study the life cycle of polypodium plants. The life cycle of polypodium includes two phases. The main two phases are the sporophyte, which is diploid, and the gametophyte, which is haploid. By looking to the life cycle, we are going to know that it starts by the sporophyte, the diploid one, which is carried on the leaves of polypodium plant on their lower surface. Look to the lower surface like that. You will see there is some curved parts which are known as sories. These sories contain numerous number of spore cells. Also, they are diploid. And then this one, they are divided by meiosis division, giving the spores which contains N chromosome, or they are haploid. By the maturation of these spores, they are released and carried by the winds to very far distances. Then they will fall on the soil, but this soil must be wet in order that these spores grow. So the spore germinate, forming several cells that develop into a flat heart-shaped body called gametophyte that grows over the soil. This gametophyte, on its lower surface, arise rhizoids. These rhizoids are processes, and they are penetrating into the soil to absorb water and salt. So the importance of these rhizoids is to absorb water and salt from the soil. Why? They absorb this one in order to feed the gametophyte. This gametophyte, once it is grown, so it produces on its anterior region, on the same surface, there is the genital organs which grows at this site. They are the antheridia, which represent the male organs, and the archegonia, which represent the female organ. On the maturation of antheridia, we found that they form the male gamete, which are really released, and these gametes are ciliated, and they are called ciliated sperms, which swim on the soil water to reach the mature archegonia and fertilize its eggs, which is found inside it. And they form, by this fusion, they form the zygote, which is diploid. So this is named as sexual reproduction. Then the zygote divides and differentiates into a new sporophyte that grows over the gametophyte. Why it grows over it and depends on it? Why? Because it can't depend on itself to get its needs from nutritive substance. So this one, it will depend on the gametophyte till it produces its own stem, root, and leaves, and can depend on itself to get its needs. So at this moment the gametophyte degenerate while the sporophyte grow and form the life cycle another time. So the sporophyte contains 2N chromosome and they are called diploid 1. Then is the alternation of generation, it is applied in this type of life cycle or not? We will find that the sporophyte 2N chromosome or diploid 1 reproduces asexually and alternate with a gametophyte N chromosome or haploid that reproduces sexually in the life cycle of fern. Life cycle of bilharzia. This life cycle, it represents the life cycle of an animal kingdom. This life cycle is an example of alternation of generation in animal kingdom. The adult worm lives in man as the main host of it and reproduces sexually in his body. Then there is another type of host which is called the snails, which represent the intermediate host. This intermediate host, inside it reproduces asexually. Then moreover, both types of reproduction enable the parasite to face the life cycle of parasitism, which are the asexual and sexual reproduction. They enable the parasite to face the life of parasitism. Now, my dear students, let's try to answer the following question together. First, compare between antheridia and archegonia. Yes, antheridia, male genital organ in fern plant, while archegonia, female genital organ in fern plant. Antheridia form the ciliated sperms, while archegonia form the eggs. The sporophyte and the gametophyte. The sporophyte has 2N chromosomes. Compare between sporophyte and gametophyte. Very good. The sporophyte has 2N chromosomes or diploid, while gametophyte has N chromosome or haploid. Sporophyte is produced from the division of the zygote by mitotic division, while the gametophyte is produced from the spores of N chromosome and divides by mitotic division also. Sporophyte developed a plant with roots, stems, and leaves, while the gametophyte, it is a flat, heart-shaped body contains rhizoids. And also it carries the antheridia and archegonia. The sporophyte, the leaves carry sories with sporogony or sporangia, The leaves carry sorys with sporangia, while the gametophyte carries the antheridia and archegonia. The sporophyte reproduces by asexual reproduction, while gametophyte reproduces by sexual reproduction. So, the sporophytes and the gametophytes are differentiated from each other. Give reason 4. The living organism gets benefits from alternation of generation. Yes, because the living organism gets benefit from asexual reproduction by getting rapid reproduction and having large number of offspring, and from the sexual reproduction by having genetic diversity, which help it to be adapted with the environmental fluctuations. The second question, the sporophyte grows over the gametophyte because the gametophyte provides the sporophyte with nutritive substance till it forms the root, stem, and leaves and be ready to depend on itself to get its needs. Another question. Explain with drawing the sexual reproduction in Plasmodium malaria. Sometimes the question comes, explain the sexual reproduction in Plasmodium malaria. Once we have a life cycle which contains the word explain, and they asked you about it, so you have to draw the life cycle or the part of the life cycle which represent this question. Okay? Explain with drawing the sexual reproduction in Plasmodium malaria. As you see, when the mosquito penetrates an infected human skin to get blood meal, it takes the infected blood cells with it, where gametocytes arise into male and female gametes in the mosquito stomach. Then the gamete fuse into zygote, which transform to ookinete that penetrate the wall of mosquito stomach and grow to oocytes. Write the scientific term for each of the following statements. Number 1. A flat heart-shaped body carries the genital organs. Yes, gametophyte. Very good. Number B. A way of reproduction in which some species of plant and animal can breed both asexually and sexually during their life cycle. Good. Alternation of generation. Minute spindle-shaped bodies are poured in blood from the female Anopheles mosquito. Yes, sporozoites. A body formed after the zygote and penetrate into the stomach wall of the mosquito. Yes, ookinete. Then, last question. What will happen if morozoites is taken by the mosquito? They will die because they did not change a gametocyte and no gametes will be formed. Let's see the next question is put right in front of the right statement and wrong in front of the wrong ones. Then rewrite the statement after being corrected. Number 1, in adjunctum, the spores are haploid. Yes? Try to answer, please. Yes, it is right. The second question, Plasmodium malaria reproduces sexually by the production of male and female gamete in man. Yes, Plasmodium malaria reproduces sexually by the production of male and female gametes in mosquito's body. That was wrong. The correction is mosquito's body instead of man. Number 3, the sporozoites divides by schizogony forming zygote. The sporozoites divide by schizogony, forming zygote. Wrong. Yes. The sporozoite divide by schizogony, forming merozoite. Number 4. The life cycle of fern starts by sporophyte. Correct. Yes. The sporophyte, it is a correct one. The life cycle starts by a sporophyte. The second type of question, give reason. The gametophyte of Adiantum is characterized by the presence of rhizoids. The gametophyte of Adiantum is characterized by the presence of rhizoids. Yes, the gametophyte of Adiantum is characterized by the presence of rhizoids because the rhizoids penetrate the soil and absorb the water and salts and provide the sporophyte, which depends on it for getting its needs from nutrition till it can make his own roots. Number 3, give reason. The life cycle of Plasmodium is characterized by alternation of generation. The life cycle of Plasmodium is characterized by alternation of generation because the life cycle of some organisms includes two types: the reproduction of sexual generation followed by one or more asexual generations, where life cycle of Plasmodium has sexual reproduction by gametes in mosquito followed by asexual reproduction by schizogony in men and by sporogony in mosquito. So the life cycle of Plasmodium is considered as an example of alternation of generation. What is the difference between? Another type of questions, which is what is the difference between the life cycle of Plasmodium in liver cells and red blood cells. The life cycle of Plasmodium in liver cells and life cycle of Plasmodium of red blood cells. Yes? The life cycle of Plasmodium in liver cells, it begins by the infection which occurs by sporozoite and merozoite, while in red blood cells, infection occurs by merozoites. Infection takes place by two cycles in the life cycle of Plasmodium in the liver cells, while this infection takes place by several cycles in red blood cells. The two cycles here are asexually. Number 3 of this difference, in which the symptoms of malaria fever does not appear. Life cycle of Plasmodium in the liver cells, once it takes place inside it, we found that there is no symptoms appear on the patient, while that which happen in the red blood cells, we found that in which the symptoms of malaria fever appears, which are the heat, chill, and sweating. The fourth point, or the last point in this comparison, we found that at last infection, the merozoite changes into a gametocyte. The life cycle of Plasmodium red blood cells, the infection here, the merozoite changes into gametocyte, while that of merozoite which takes place in the liver doesn't change into gametocyte. And now, my dear students, we reached the final point of our program. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.